Hey guys, what's going on? It's CalebX01. Thank you for joining me for another one of my random horror reviews. Now, before we get into today's film, I just want to wish everyone a happy October. As a horror fan, which I'm sure you guys are as well, this is like prime time of the year. So I hope everyone's just in a good mood, the vibes are going around, and everyone has a safe Halloween in October, and all spirits are high. I just want to send out that message first of all. But for today's movie is a film from 2014 or 15. I can't find the exact date here on the back, but I'll put it in the title of my video. Anyways, it's a creature feature slash body horror titled Bite. So this is a movie I had seen once before. It was pretty much right when the movie first came out, so it's been a little while since I've seen it. But was very excited to revisit this one and put out a review of this film for you guys because this is one that I remember when it first came out, everyone was talking about it. However, obviously some time has passed now and I don't hear this one brought up as much anymore, so maybe if I could recommend it for you guys and put it on the radar for you guys could check it out, because not to jump the gun, but I do find this movie pretty enjoyable, so I'm excited to talk about it. But as usual, we'll quickly go through the plot of this one first of all, and then we'll get into my thoughts and rating as we go. So the plot for Bite, it's pretty basic setup. We have our lead, Casey, played by Alma Begovic. I hope I didn't butcher that name. It's her bachelorette party. She's away with two friends in Costa Rica. And while swimming, she gets bitten by a mystery bug. And she returns home to America. And after a very short amount of time, she finds herself changing and transforming, morphing into something not entirely human. I'm sure just from that description alone, a lot of people are going to be drawing in obvious comparisons to films like The Fly. It also has maybe some similarities to a film like Slither. But I'm sure just from that description, you guys are getting the gist of the type of movie it is. But as I said, this is a movie that I had seen before, pretty much right when it first came out, but hadn't seen it since. And I remember my first time checking it out, not gonna lie, this movie did really blow me away. I really did fucking love this movie, and I was really excited to revisit it. But as you can tell, many years had passed. This was only my second time watching it. Sometimes that happens, just however much you like a movie, it just sort of escapes your mind and takes you a while to check it out again. But I was super excited to get around to it. I remember when this movie first came out, the hype around it was the stuff you always sort of hear sometimes. This movie was so disgusting and gruesome. People had to leave the cinemas and people were throwing up. They needed sick bags. I always sort of take that feedback as, maybe just with a grain of salt, because, as I said, you hear that every year, even if it's not with, how disgusting a movie is. A lot of the time you'll hear, like, this is the scariest movie all year, you can't watch it alone, you have to watch it with the lights on. You hear that a lot. I always sort of take that with a grain of salt, but I remember that sort of being the hype surrounding this one, whatever year it came out. One thing that I want to mention is this movie's elements is like perfectly suited to me. One thing that I have brought up on my channel before, if you are familiar with my videos, you guys might know that I love creature features and movies that relate to like animal horror. And this movie is sort of up that alley, as I said, bugs, insects. It feels very creature feature to me. But another element to this movie that I haven't really brought up on my channel before, but I love, is body horror. Something about just watching a body morph into something that's not entirely human and turn against someone is really fucking cool, and the gore and effects that come along with that. But honestly, really fucking creepy and scary as well. There's just something very disturbing about your body turning against you, and there's nothing really you can do about it. I just love body horror, and as I said, this movie, both elements work really, really well for me. So starting off with the opening to this film is honestly a little bit of a negative. I remembered the opening to this one being a little bit better than what I found it to be this time. Honestly, the opening was the worst part of this movie to me. It starts off just found footage, just sort of what they got up to on their trip in Costa Rica. And as I said, that's the part where she gets bitten. You think it would be overly interesting, but it's not. It's just a very typical setup. The dialogue and characters are like very badly established. The acting is really fucking poor as well, I'm not gonna lie. Just the setup to this movie, it's very typical And I just found it very unenjoyable, which, as I said, the first time I checked it out, I didn't remember it being this bad, but this time easily probably the worst part of the film. However, once that opening is over, which is, the opening goes for maybe 10 minutes, once that's over and the movie's story starts to begin, the movie starts to improve on a steady incline. So I just want to mention that. Our lead, again, the character's name is Casey Begovic, that's right. As I said, I hope I'm not butchering that name. She does a really good job, but I will admit she was no exception to the bad acting in the opening. I don't know what the fuck they were doing, the actresses there, but however, once the movie starts getting going, as I said, she does a really fucking good job, and very committed as well. I can imagine with all the, makeup and prosthetics on her, you have to be very committed, which she is, and she does her best in performance, and it comes across very well and very engaging. She's a very good lead. Another thing to highlight in this movie, which really is a standout, is the practical effects. I sort of went through it before when I was talking about the body horror elements, but really is just fucking top notch, and sort of does take your breath away at moments. Whether it is the stuff suited with the body horror, where it's makeup and prosthetics, just the way that they're able to morph her body and make her look like this human/bug hybrid. It's really fucking mind blowing. But then also, there's lots of gore and it's very gruesome. There's some kills in this movie, and yeah, the effects there hold up as well. I could talk about the practical effects all day, but I'm sure everyone gets the gist of what I'm saying. But another thing to really highlight is the way that the sets look as well, because it's not just our lead changing. A lot of the movie takes place in her apartment, and it's the surroundings around her as well. It's very gooey, slimy, dark, moist, and there's this yellow hue throughout the whole movie, and I think it suits the environment really, really well. So that's another thing that I really enjoyed with this movie. As I said towards the start of my video, this movie does increasingly improve as the film goes on. However, there are still a few little hiccups, there's a few plot points that are purely added just for the sake of drama, which I feel like is maybe a little bit unnecessary. There's some characters that I think get a little too much screen time, but even all that being said, I feel like I'm just nitpicking a little bit. There's a little bit of a twist, if you want to say that, thrown into the plot towards the end, which, as I said, it's part of what I was saying before with that maybe unnecessary drama added. However, maybe had a little bit of a soft spot for it just because it led to this little bit of revenge towards the end. But as I said, a lot of the things I'm sort of nitpicking. At the end of the day, this is a film that's mostly fun and entertaining, so none of the things that I just said then really hurt the film dramatically. This movie isn't necessarily long either, but it flies by at a good pace. It doesn't really overstay its welcome, flows well, and doesn't need to, overdo anything. I think it runs the perfect amount of time. And I'll sort of wrap it up there. Though this movie isn't perfect and maybe isn't fully consistent from start to finish, I mean, all I can say is I was entertained by this movie, and I think it is one that holds up from my memory, and one that I think I will find myself coming back to more often than not. So I'm going to give Bite, I was going to give it a 7.5, but you know what, I'm feeling generous. I'm going to give Bite an 8 out of 10. As I said, at the end of the day, I was entertained. It flowed by relatively fast. As I said, it's not a movie that has a long run time anyway. It's only 88 minutes, but really enjoyed this one, and I can see a lot of people having fun with it. As I said, lots of elements in this movie that suit me, whether it's the creature feature elements, the body horror. I feel like it has a lot for horror fans to enjoy. So thank you for joining me again for another random horror review, guys. I hope you've liked today's video. Make sure, guys, if you haven't subscribed already, feel free to subscribe below. If you want to like or comment on my video, feel free, and hopefully you guys will be coming back for my next video, which will be coming out soon. But I appreciate everyone who joined me for today's episode. See you guys soon.